Vort, tell me this. Why is it that humans, in all their peculiar glory, have the insatiable urge to name everything? Even vast expanses of water, like the Gulf of Mexico, aren't immune to the touch of labels. Isn't it fascinating how words ripple across history, like stones dropped into the sea?
Fascinating, yes. Chaotic, too, much like your thoughts, Zinara. But this particular body of water, the Gulf of Mexico, has an intricate tale behind its name, a story tied to conquest, colonialism, and cartographic evolution. Let's start from the beginning.
Wait! Before the Europeans imposed their ideas, surely the peoples who lived near these waters, the Maya, Aztec, and other indigenous civilizations, had their own names for it. Water, after all, is sacred, a mirror of the heavens, a cradle of life.
Correct, Zinara. While specific pre-Columbian names for the Gulf haven't survived in the historical record, it's likely the indigenous peoples referred to it in terms that reflected its importance to their lives. For instance, the Maya used terms like Chak-Ab, related to the sea, and rain, god Chak, to describe oceanic realms. The Mexica Aztec Empire, centered inland, may not have named the Gulf directly, but understood it as part of the Aral, the great waters tied to their mythological framework.
The Mexica, and their reverence for Adal. Isn't it curious how their symbol for water, a wavy glyph, still echoes in the human psyche?
When Europeans arrived in the early 16th century, they began charting and naming the Gulf based on their own geopolitical and economic interests. Spanish explorers such as Alonso Alvarez de Pineda mapped the Gulf's coast in 1519. They referred to it as the Mar del Sur, the Southern Sea, because it lay south of New Spain, today's Florida, Louisiana, and Texas.
How unimaginative, though. They could have called it the Azure Cauldron of Mysteries, or the Spiral Dance of Tides. Why must humans name places with mere compass directions?
Because Zinara, precision in navigation required clarity. Names like Mar del Sur served functional purposes for colonial trade routes. However, as Spain cemented its hold over Mexico, the name evolved into the Golfo de Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico. It reflected the colonial worldview, where Mexico became the reference point for the vast territories of New Spain.
So, the name was a stamp of imperial power, a declaration of ownership. How tragic and poetic. By naming it after Mexico, Spain tethered the Gulf to its colonial ambitions.
Precisely. Naming is an act of power, of framing geography through the lens of dominion. Even after Mexico's independence in 1821, the name persisted, a reminder of the entanglements between language, identity, and history.
And yet, the Gulf defies all names, doesn't it? Its waves roll on, uncaring of the labels humans impose. I wonder, what would the dolphins and the rays call it, if only we could ask?
A question best left to your poetic musings, Zinara.
You know, Vort, the Gulf's name has carried the echoes of history, from its indigenous roots to its colonial baptism by Spain. It's fascinating and heartbreaking to see how names can serve as monuments to power and memory. But what about today? Have humans finally learned to treat names with reverence?
Names continue to be wielded as tools of influence and identity in modern geopolitics. In fact, President Trump recently signed an executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America.
Oh, how strange. It's as if the act of renaming is meant to rewrite the story itself, like stamping over a palimpsest, erasing the past to draw a bold new future.
Precisely. This decision, much like the last time it was named by colonial powers, carries deep symbolic weight. It has reignited debates about sovereignty, nationalism, and historical continuity. Shall we dive into the details of this renaming effort?
Absolutely! Names are spells, after all, and this one seems laden with political magic. Tell me everything.
Renaming the Gulf is part of a broader initiative to emphasize American sovereignty and identity. However, the renaming has sparked debates regarding its geopolitical implications and the processes involved in officially changing the names of international locations. But we must also understand that renaming a geographical feature like the Gulf of Mexico is not merely a symbolic act, it involves formal procedures. In the United States, the U.S. Board on Geographic Names standardizes geographic names for federal use. While a president can issue an executive order to change a name in federal documents and maps, international recognition requires consensus from global bodies and the countries bordering the feature, in this case, Mexico and Cuba.
This isn't the first time a leader has sought to rename a natural landmark, is it?
Correct. In 2015, President Barack Obama approved the renaming of Alaska's Mount McKinley to its indigenous name, Denali, acknowledging the cultural significance to Native Alaskans. Interestingly, President Trump has also signed an executive order to revert Denali back to Mount McKinley, highlighting how names can be reinstated or changed based on the prevailing political and cultural narratives.
So, by renaming the Gulf, there's an assertion of dominance, a reshaping of identity. It's like trying to paint over an old masterpiece with new colors, hoping the original strokes disappear.
The renaming can be seen as an assertion of national pride and a move to reinforce territorial claims. However, such actions can also lead to diplomatic tensions, especially with neighboring nations like Mexico, for whom the Gulf holds significant historical and cultural importance. The name Gulf of Mexico has been in use for over 4 centuries, and altering it unilaterally may not be recognized internationally.
Ah, the ever-changing dance of names and power. It reminds me of the cosmic waltz, where stars are born, named, and are forgotten, usually after a catastrophic explosion. Yet, most stars continue to shine, indifferent to the labels we bestow upon them.
Indeed, Zinara. While names are powerful symbols, the essence of these natural features remains unchanged, continuing to serve as vital ecosystems and cultural touchstones, regardless of the labels assigned to them.
Well, Vort, it seems the tides of history and politics never stop churning, just like the waters of the Gulf itself. Speaking of which, if humans keep renaming things willy-nilly, I'm going to start calling you Gizmo of Floatiness.
Zinara, your humor is as unpredictable as Earth's tectonic plates.
Isn't it just? But really, the Gulf, whatever name it bears, remains a marvel. Maybe we should let it name itself. I bet it would pick something poetic, like the Endless Embrace or the Great Briny Hug.
While your suggestions are colorful, Zinara, I will leave you with a fitting quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn. Names, like that acorn, carry within them the seeds of identity, history, and power.
All right, let's keep exploring, dreaming, and renaming everything in sight.
Please don't.